we go. Okay, howdy. So, per usual, I guess we'll wait for Chris to get back because he ran to get something. What's up, Nina?
Yeah,
I like the
how's it
pink.
going? Thank you.
You're
Am I
welcome.
on mute? No, I
No,
didn't mute myself yet. Hi, how's it going, Dustin? Good
it's
to see you.
going, it's going good. Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Oh, yeah, me too. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy you are here. Okay. What are some of the things that are coming up for you guys that you want as training for tonight? I got CJ starting to close on his zone. Chris is almost there. Uh, Kat's closing, and then Kyle, Nina, and Carrie are coming shortly behind.
Got through my agent training or agent suite today. Got another hour tomorrow, and then I'll get the wave dialer. And next week, I'm hoping to start dialing.
Okay. A couple things there is just make sure that on your wave you're getting phone numbers for all of the states that you're going to be marketing into. So it's like they're like $1 per number, but then you're able to call with local presence to where the local area code will show up. Increases pickup rates. Also, for all of you, make sure that you go into Wave and you do spam protection because that will prevent your phone numbers from showing up and saying uh, whatever it says. What does it say?
Is
Oh,
that the
potential spam.
is that the AP2 that they were talking about on Suite with me today?
No, that's A2P. You have to do that before, like that takes about a week, and you have to do that so that you can send out text messages
Okay.
from your agent suite. This is different. You'll open up the wave dialer. Here, let me share my screen and show you guys.
And do I get the numbers through agent suite, right?
Well, yes, kind of. You'll get it through Wave. Okay. So let me show you guys. Uh, you don't need an EIN. You can do it as a sole proprietor. So I'll show you 1 second. There we go. Okay. God damn it. How do we fucking. There we go. Okay. Everyone can see that. So you'll go to bottom left. Once you have this installed, it'll say you'll have a wave dialer here. You click on wave dialer. If you guys also want to just log in to the Zoom and then just turn your audio off so we don't have feedback, that's probably useful. Anyways, you'll go in, you'll click on wave dialer. Here in Trust Hub, it'll say spam protection. I think it'll say register and then business type, you'll select sole proprietor. And then you can put your social security number in instead of an EIN. Your business name will be your name. And then, you don't have a DBA, you don't have a DUNS number, 1 to 10 employees. And yeah, you'll put in your license number, which is your NPN, your address. Just fill this stuff out. And then you can get spam protection so that your phone numbers aren't showing up as potential telemarketer or whatever it is that it says.
Is there any specific area codes to use in the states? Because obviously every state's going to have a ton of area codes.
You're basically just going to pick the state and just get whatever number you can in the state. Some states don't
Okay.
have phone numbers. Some of them are like, I think Alaska, I don't think you can get a phone number in Alaska. So there's a couple of them that like all the phone numbers have already been taken, but you just get the closest that you can. I think, like I don't know, I got 12 numbers. I probably need more actually. So what you'll do is just go to, purchase numbers
Hmm.
and you'll say, let's see, where do I want Wisconsin? Let's just say. And see, so you'll type in WI and then I can look in Wisconsin and say, okay, cool, we got Milwaukee. Maybe that's a good one for Wisconsin, Milwaukee. So I'll add that 414 number. And then what's another state? Maybe Louisiana. So then you can just go through and kind of add states.
Okay.
I don't have any idea where to get a state. Ooh, New Orleans.
When I was adding states, I did ask ChatGPT, hey, of all the area codes in said state, what's the biggest pickup rate?
Mhm.
And it would give me the top three. It would say, try to get this number. If you know, try to get the 748. If you can't get the 748, get the 764. Um, so I don't know how accurate that information was, but it was a good resource when I was choosing numbers.
Great call out. Everybody give Kat a round of applause. Thanks for showing up, Kat. Let's go. Okay, so I will not be buying numbers on this call because Kat it has a better idea. So uh
When you said for industry, there's okay, just kidding. Just kidding.
whoa. When I said for what? Oh, for industry? Yeah, financial services, insurance, whatever. Um, so I think that because you guys are closing, I've been trying to think of a framework for how to think about what to sell to somebody because there's a couple different avenues we can take. And I'm probably just going to keep talking about this until it makes sense to me, and then hopefully it makes sense to you guys as well. And so I think we touched on this a little bit on Wednesday. But the more I think about it, it's like I kind of want you guys to really just commit these to memory because there's a few things that we're looking for, right? So the first thing we're looking for is will the spouse be able to make the mortgage payment or not? Or will the beneficiary be able to make the mortgage payment? The second thing we're looking for is will the spouse receive enough income and survivorship to be able to make the payments on their own? And if they do, if they are, like if they're going to receive their husband's social security and that's going to, that paired with whatever else they got coming in is going to be enough to cover the mortgage payments and their bills, then the sell becomes covering the 6 month lag between when the husband passes and when the income starts coming in. Uh, so those are the two things. Third is obviously paying the whole home off, which is dependent upon healthy discretionary income and good health background, meaning no major health conditions, hopefully none at all. Maybe just like blood pressure and high cholesterol. So you can go IUL. And if the mortgage is too high to pay off, then we have to pivot towards paying down so that the spouse can refinance. So, pretty much you have like spouse will stay in the home, but there's an income gap. You have spouse will have to sell the home, so we have to cover critical period. You have spouse wants to stay in the home. We got a really healthy person with plenty of discretionary, so we can pay down the mortgage and have her refinance. And these are all related to like spouse living there. If it's, if your frame is care dependency, then we want to try to pay off the whole damn mortgage. And we really don't have budget concerns, right? It's not really about discretionary income at this point. It's more about, how to get how much coverage can we get for whatever they can afford. Which is like how much discretionary do they have? A parent that has a disabled child or a husband that has a disabled spouse will pay almost anything if we can provide the solution. So, and then you do have like, I mean, those are the main ones if they don't already have coverage. If they do have coverage, then we're trying to do a policy replacement. So, what would be like I don't really want to repeat myself, but out of what I just mentioned, what is most interesting and helpful to you guys?
I'm not closing yet, so it's all equal.
I guess what would be the first that you start out with? Like, what do we need to know first in order to break it down?
So that's a good question. What do you need to know first in order to break it later? What do you need to know first in order to break it down? Meaning what piece of information has to come first?
Right, yeah. You gave us
Okay.
3. Is that like the order that you want us to focus on, or no?
No.
There's no specific order? Okay.
Okay, so this is, and guys, this is going to be more open dialogue than like me sitting and talking at you for an hour. Because it's like I don't have a framework mapped yet. That's my hope that as we talk about it, a framework will emerge and a way to think about it. So I think Connor just asked a really good question. He said, where do we go first to start to narrow down what our options are? Right? Is that what I'm understanding? So I think that even before you get to that, where the fuck, there we go. Let me share this again. Here, I'm just going to have the script up so that you guys can see this. So, oh wow, that's really small. There we go. That's a little better.
A lot better.
So before even getting into like what is going to qualify them first, I think we need to know who are we talking to first. And so the first step is, and this is strictly fresh leads, right? If we're calling age leads, it's really more of a policy replacement conversation. Like, can we save the money? And we're attacking the plan. So let me write that down. So training ideas is going to be policy replacements is one we need to do. But if we're calling fresh leads or having not a non-policy replacement conversation, we first need to know who is it that we're talking to and what is their focus, right? And there's different lines of thinking for each. So maybe we can go through those and then that'll probably help to provide some insight into like what we look at first. So first thing is going to be these, it's the customer archetype. So who are we, what type of person are we dealing with? Is it, and you're going to find this out just based on who they have listed as their beneficiary. Or if you ask them, like, who do you, who are you getting this for? Like what family member are you wanting to do this for? And so sometimes we get that they want to do it for their kids, right? And so if you think about that, the kids, the inheritance, it's they want to make sure that their kids have a stronger financial foundation than they had. In some instances, the kids are living there. And so then we start getting into more of a housing continuity. So the first question is like, who's the beneficiary? Is it spouse? Is it kids? Is it family? Like, is it a brother, sister, cousin, right? Or is it like a close friend? So that's kind of the first gate, if you will, because if it's the kids, right? Unless there's a disabled adult child, we're not trying to pay off the house. Like there's no reason for them to stretch their budget unnecessarily. And so immediately if I hear that it's kids, I'm already like right out the gate when I'm explaining to them, when I'm doing the mortgage protection explainer, I'm explaining that most families, my job is to share with you what I have advised other families to do, what I've seen work really well, and it's to make sure that we come up with a plan, or we leave our conversations with a plan that ensures that your family is going to get everything that you want them to have without risk of losing the home to the bank, and that you're going to be able to sleep peacefully at night knowing that we have a plan. Most families that want to protect the home for the children, they don't pay off the whole house. They want to make sure that the kids have enough time to like sell the home or rent it out or refinance it. And they want to make sure that the kids have some resources available to do whatever they need to do with the home. Now, something for us all to know is like if it's the kids that are going to inherit the house, some families think that, their 3 kids are just going to split the house and they're going to rent it out, which is not going to happen. And we've talked about this before because it's like who's going to be the one that answers the call in the middle of the night, right? So we want to educate them on the kids, if it's multiple kids, they're probably going to sell the house, or one of them is going to refinance it into their name and buy the other 2 out, or the other child out. Most kids will sell the house because they want the money for other things, kids' college funds, their home remodel, whatever it is. And so kids do not have as long of a grieving period, right? Like they're going to grieve for a little bit, but then they're going to go get down to business. So they're not living there. So the kids they'll do the service. They're really not going to do much for the first month or two. But by month 3, like the kids are ready to move. And so that means that starting in month 3, the kids got to get all the stuff out of the house. They got to put it in a storage unit. They got to do an estate sale. They got to do whatever they got to do. Get the house ready for the market, get it listed, and get it sold. So what that means is the kids really only need 9 months. It's like there's just no reason for them to have more than that, right? You can make the case that you could go up to 15 months of the mortgage payments, but really not much more. It's like the kids just don't need that much time. Now, if it's a comparative to if it's a spouse, then that's a lot longer, right? But when we hear kids, it's going to the kids, immediately start downselling against paying off the whole mortgage. Just have in the back of your head, 99% of people are not going to either A, qualify, or B, be able to afford paying off the mortgage. So we want to start planting seeds very early on in the conversation that paying off the mortgage isn't what most people do and that that's okay. Right? So immediately when I hear kids, I'm thinking, okay, we're going to go for critical period. We're going to focus on paying off months for the house. Now, if they say, well, the child is living here. Okay. And how old's the kid? If the kid's like an adult, okay, now I'm thinking maybe it's paid for critical period, but it might also be pay down the mortgage so that the child can refinance it at a lower rate and have a lower payment. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So remember, we can only do 3 things. We can pay off, pay for, or pay down. So we want to grab that door.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're on camera.
And so I'm automatically then starting to think like, okay, well, it's children, so it's not going to be pay off. It's going to be pay down or pay for. If the kid's not living there, then it's pay for. If the kid is living there, it's pay down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. If it's we've spent does anybody have questions on spouse? Like I feel like we've spent a lot of time talking about spouse over the last few weeks.
No, I've been running into a lot of children that are. the
It's a lot of
beneficiary-
inheritance, yeah.
Yes, and I feel like that is the weakest why to protect them.
It's not the weakest one, but it's close.
What's the weakest one in your opinion?
I want to help my brother out.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
the weakest one for sure.
Right.
Not a lot of nice siblings like that.
But Chris points to something very useful in our conversation is like, yeah, the inheritance is the weakest why. And so imagine if you know it's going to be an inheritance and you're trying to sell them on paying off the whole mortgage and it's going to be $400 a month and it's the weakest why, like you're going to get hit with a lot of pushback. You're going to hear a lot of like, oh, okay, I need to think about this. I need to talk to the kids. Right. And that's another hint is if you know that the kids are the beneficiary, just assume that they help manage the finances. Just assume it. And so when you get down further into the conversation, before you present numbers to try to close, find out, like ask, is Sarah involved in your finances? Like, you go to her with a lot of financial questions? Does she help you with taxes? Like, just ask them, are your children, do they help you with these kinds of decisions? If they say, no, not really, I do these on my own, I just want to do this for them, great, continue on. But if they say, yeah, they do, say, do you think that we should include them in the conversation so that they know what's happening? Okay, great. And then you're going to continue on. You're not just going to end the call there. But like, notice that if it's kids or the beneficiaries, ask them that question so you don't get blindsided at closing with, I need to talk to my kids. Because that's the hardest fucking objection to overcome. Like I've done it. I'm like 10%, maybe. It's the hardest one. So inheritance, pay down, pay for, right? Depending on budget and depending on what the parents want to do. Some parents are just like, I want as much as I can get for them. And we're saying, okay, great. Well, let's go through and we'll go through budget and we'll have them choose the band and then we'll do as much as we can within that band. But don't be thinking like, let's upsell them into paying off the whole mortgage. Most of the time, I'm telling them, hey, listen, you can pay off the whole mortgage. Most families don't do that because at the end of the day, the kids are probably going to sell the home or they're going to refinance it and buy the other one out. And the only difference between paying down the mortgage, covering the mortgage payments versus, paying off the mortgage is how much cash the kids end up walking away with at the end of the day. Okay, now, if you're in here, I haven't filled this out, so let me just throw some basic information. Let's say Chris Schwager is, I don't know, how old's Chris Schwager, guys?
38.
How old is our imaginary Chris Schwager?
48.
No,
68.
let's do like.
Okay,
Let's do 68 or like
We'll go
60, something like
69.
that. 69.
Good looking 72.
Okay, 69. I like it, 69. All right. So Chris is not married. Something happened. We don't know. But he owes, let's say, $270,000 on the mortgage. And let's say his mortgage payment is $2,200. Let's say the home value is like 350. So there's not a crazy amount of equity in there today. Like he just bought the house, I don't know, 5 years ago. Or he refinanced it 5 years ago. He got a great rate of 3.75. Okay. Chris, if you're open your computer and join the Zoom and mute it, then you'll be able to see what we're doing on the screen. So now what you'll see here is in the script app, this is going to give you some numbers. Okay, so we now know that a 69-year-old male has an average life expectancy of 84 years old. And that can be very useful in our conversation here because this gives us a planning horizon, but it also lets us project the equity out so that we're having a conversation that this is not just about paying for the mortgage for a period of time so that we save your kid, so that your kids get $80,000. It's like when we project this down the road at 84, assuming 4% annual home appreciation, which is the national average over the last 20 something years, really we're talking about protecting $500,000. Okay, so you have that in your pocket because you filled this information out and you can see that, yeah, projected equity is 491. Now, the reason this is important is that if you're talking with the client, you're saying, hey, listen, we can look at paying the whole mortgage off if that's what you really want to do. I don't usually advise that because the payment is higher and I don't want to stretch your budget. I don't want you to stretch your budget too thin. And frankly, the only difference between, paying for the mortgage or paying down the mortgage and paying it off is how much money the kids are going to walk away with at the end of the day. Now, as we look at it, if we assume, let's just say average life expectancy or for our planning horizon, the kids are already going to be splitting almost $500,000. So if we pay off the mortgage, maybe it's an extra 138,000, but they're already getting $500,000. So is that enough, or do you really want them to have the full, 630,000? And most of the time they'll see that like, okay, yeah, no, $500,000's enough. And that's enough to get them off. Like a lot of this is about getting them off of the idea that they have to pay off the whole mortgage. Does that make sense? Okay. So you're going to be dropping hints right out the gate that as soon as you hear kids, okay, great. And you're going to get into why, could the kids afford it? Whatever. And yeah.
What if they can afford it easily?
Great. Even better. Like it doesn't matter. If the kids can't afford it, then obviously that increases the strength of the why. But know that the most of the time, the reason, like the number one reason that folks go get life insurance, does anybody know the number one reason?
To make sure they're not a burden.
Yeah, it's just to make sure that they're not a burden. And listen, I've done this for thousands of families, and you know what most of them tell me? They tell me that, you know what, at the end of the day, when that day comes, I just want to make sure that the house is a blessing, not a burden. Is it safe to assume that too as well? They're like, yeah. Okay, great. So let's focus on that. Let's make sure the house is a blessing, but let's also, we'll go ahead and look at paying off the whole thing, but let's also manage the budget because if $500,000 is enough for the kids, then let's manage your budget so that you have, the cash flow to enjoy life as much as you want to. And usually we can get them off of that. So then when we get down into closing, we're just looking at really, it's like paying for the mortgage for like a year and then also building up. Okay, what if it's paying for the mortgage for a year and it's home preparation. And then if they have final expenses already covered, great. If not, we add that in too. That's pretty much it. You see, so like we're trying to downsell into a smaller policy because we know that the Y is weaker, right? So
Hmm.
think about the strength of the Y helps to determine how big of a payment you can push for. Does that make sense? So know that like if it's just I just want to make sure that my brother's able to get this. Okay, cool. Let's cover the mortgage for like 9 months. $10,000 policy. We'll keep that payment to a minimum because the Y is really weak. They don't have a really strong reason to do it. So we need to what? We need to make sure that their capital, the cost of this is at a point where they're not really going to notice it.
So downsell into a smaller policy if the Y is weak.
That's right. Yeah. And so that's why, like, when you ask, like, what are we looking for? The first thing is what type of person is this? And the order is the strongest Y is is care continuity. Like there is a care dependency with the beneficiary, adult child with a disability, or spouse that has a disability or can't take care of herself. That's the strongest. For that, we can push. Those are $400, $500, $600 payments, right? Next one down from that is spousal protection, and that's pretty common. Those are where we're going to see more $200, $300, $400 payments. Down from that, inheritance. That's where you're going to see $100 to $300 payments. And then if it's the family member, it's probably going to be $100, $200 payments. So if you frame it that way, right, then you just have to know going in. They'll tell you what their budget is and they'll choose a band, but just know in your mind, it's better to downsell them and go with lower because you can always increase it later. It's better to get the sale even if it's a smaller amount, because in a year when you do your follow-up, you can always push for more, right? But lock it in, get it done with a cost that isn't going to cause them heartburn. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
So we start there. So that's the first thing we're listening for. Okay. The first thing we're listening for is like, what type of customer archetype are we dealing with? Is this, if you find out like, yeah, spouse lives there, or they say, oh, it's for my kid. Okay. And is he living with you or is he out on his own? Oh, he's living with me. Okay. And how old is he? Okay, great. And is there like any kind of care dependency, or is he like kind of able-bodied and just, he's just living there temporarily? But we want to find out exactly what the circumstances are, because obviously if there's a care dependency, that changes things dramatically, right? Jimmy Ellis was a good example of this. It was like, if he passes, he has a son with Down syndrome. Jimmy Ellis had no problem paying 50% of his discretionary income. Like he was down with that if it meant that his kid was going to be okay. Yeah. And that's like when we get really large policies, most of the time it's that. Fuck.
Was Jimmy Ellis a client of yours?
Of Chris's.
Ah,
Okay, so that's thing one. We're listening for that. Thing two is, do they have any, well, actually, thing two is actually health. Okay, so health is going to let us know, can we even qualify for something that is going to make a significant dent in the mortgage? If you're plugging stuff in and it's giving you the little red thing that says IUL is not in the cards, then you need to really be making sure that you're planting seeds that they don't have to pay the whole house off. They just need to cover it for a period of time. So it's kind of like at the very top, who are we talking to? Right? And then next level down. Because even with inheritance, you could still pay down the mortgage or you could pay for the mortgage. Right? With care dependency, you can pay off the mortgage, pay down the mortgage, or pay for the mortgage. If, like in worst case, spouse off, down, for. But inheritance or housing continuity, you're just paying for the house or you're paying down the mortgage. Like that's pretty much it. Don't even be thinking about paying it off. The payment's going to be too high. Make sense?
yeah.
Okay. Is that
So number two is, do they have any health conditions?
The second is, so once we've identified that, right? So it's like if it's inheritance or it's family, like housing continuity, that we just took paying off the mortgage off the table. We're not even gonna worry about that. Next thing is gonna be health. So health is going to determine like if they don't qualify for an IUL, you're not paying down the mortgage, and you're certainly not paying it off. At least not with simplified issue. Okay.
Because it's 25,000 max.
No. You can go up to 100,000, but you're also dealing with like at 100,000, depending on the age, the payment can be pretty high.
Mm.
So, but if their mortgage is 200,000 and you know that you can only get 100 grand, unless they're super rich and have a really like, unless they got a ton of discretionary income and a really strong fucking Y, you're probably not paying off the mortgage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. After that, then you're going into finances. And again, here, this is even if they qualify and their health is looking good, the next thing that's going to limit them is going to be what their discretionary income looks like. If their discretionary is under $2,000, you're probably not paying off the mortgage. It's like maybe down to 1,500. I mean, by the way, guys, all of this is with the caveat that if it's a care dependency, all bets are off. Like that person will do whatever the fuck it takes. It doesn't, everything that we just talked about doesn't matter. They're down for whatever they can do to pay off the house for the disabled loved one. But those don't happen very often. So for most cases, if your discretionary income is under $1,500, like forget about paying off the whole mortgage, unless their mortgage is, 50 grand, something like that. Other thing to watch out for is how many years they have left on their mortgage. If they have less than 10 years on their mortgage, then you can certainly pay it off. But in the back of their mind, they're going to be wondering like, well, why don't I just pay it off myself? So it's something to watch for. Is this making sense to you guys? It's fucking complicated. So like, I don't have a really clear framework in my own mind. I know it when I see it and I know where to go with it. But like figuring out how to put that in a framework that makes sense is challenging.
I think this is really important right now because, like, not knowing where to go is like, well, how am I gonna do this now?
Especially if you have those red boxes.
Okay, so perfect. So let's talk about that. Okay, if you get a red box, you're paying for the mortgage.
Okay.
Just that's what you're doing. To keep it simple for now, if you get a red box, you're going critical period.
Yeah, in some cases, like, you're not even doing that, you're just literally paying for final expenses. When they don't have.
If they don't have the discretionary,
Right.
yeah. So I always say, I always tell my clients like, hey, there's two things that usually dictate strategy. It's usually health background and budget. Like if you have a terrible health background but unlimited budget, you can do anything you want. Right? But if you got a great health background and limited budget, you're still stuck. So budget has a lot to do with what you can do. And that's probably going to have a big determination. I mean, I think actually above all else, everything else is kind of conceptual really in how you would frame it. But in terms of what you'll actually do for them, it's just health and budget. Okay. So give me some examples. Give me like what would you do with this? And maybe that will be helpful.
I mean, I was on the phone with a guy earlier today. He was in not very good health condition. He already has a policy in place. Let me see what kind it was. I think it was.
Okay, while Chris is doing that, I'm gonna get myself some water. I'll be right back, guys.
Was it a whole life, Chris, or
I'm looking that up right now.
I haven't exhibited too? I have an example if you can't find it.
No, I got it.
You do?
I mean, he literally has like a pretty much a final expense policy. It's a term. Well, it's a term, so it's not even final expenses. With Royal Neighbors, it's 58 bucks a month, and it pays out 10,000.
Okay.
And he's fucking. He has a stint. He had a heart attack less than 2 years ago. He had cancer. Like this.
Okay.
guy's-
So all you can do with that guy is policy replacement.
Right.
Yeah. So that actually gets pretty simple. Who has their volume on? Yeah. That gets pretty simple. Somebody already has coverage. We're thinking policy replacement. So what I'd suggest for you guys is like, if you get a red box, you're going critical period and you're paying for the mortgage period, the end. If you get a green box, then you really have the full, like now you can do a lot of things. And so if they have a high mortgage, you're still going critical period, right? If they don't fall into care dependency, you're probably going critical period unless it's a spouse and you have a green box and you can pay down the mortgage enough for them to refinance it so that the mortgage payment will make sense for the spouse. Is that you guys tracking with that?
Yeah.
Am I confusing the shit out of everybody?
No, not at all.
No? Okay.
It makes more sense every day, just slowly.
It's like it's a good amount to take in.
Yeah.
I think maybe something to explain to everybody else is like when the surviving spouse is gonna receive the social security from the other spouse, they just need enough time in order to receive that so they can start paying that on their own. So it's just like a critical protection period.
Kind of, yeah. You just have like you're covering the income gap.
Right.
So we've got in the world of things, one angle is covering the income gap. The other angle is paying down and having them refinance, paying down to refi. Another angle is paying off the mortgage. Another angle is actual critical period. You'll hear like income replacement. I haven't done any income replacements because I think like to actually replace someone's income is a crazy amount of money, so I haven't really positioned anything that way. Most of the time it's really just these four. Like these four are really the things you can do. It's like, okay, well, really our shortfall is there's going to be a 6-month window in there where your social security hasn't transferred over yet. And so money's going to be really tight. So what we need to do is cover that income gap and provide an emergency fund, right? That's angle one. Angle two is, okay, well, your mortgage is going to be down to this your mortgage is going to be down to your mortgage is.
I don't know what's like.
Well, with that also, you need to work in the final expenses too, right?
In all cases.
Right.
In every case, we want to make, and then there's policy replacement is the fifth one. Policy replacement. And then we've got accidental death as the upsell. So let's use this example with Chris, okay? And let's say that Chris really cares about his spouse and he's like, gosh, she's going to have $2,300 in total income. And we can look and say, okay, well, at age 84, the balance of the mortgage is only going to be $139,000. And we also know that if we can get the mortgage down to like 40, 50 grand, the mortgage payment on 50 grand is only like $250. So then that means that all we really need to do is it's like if we can pay 90,000 towards this mortgage, that's 270 today. We can convince the client that, hey, 90,000 in coverage at average life expectancy at 84, you're only going to owe 140. She gets 90,000. That covers this income gap. She takes a chunk of that, plops it down on the mortgage, and then refinances it. Now we're home free. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like that's a really strong angle. So it's like in order of operations, a client will likely prefer that over her having to sell the home, right? So if we were to take these 5 things, income gap, paying down to refi, paying off the mortgage, critical period, and policy, well, policy replacement's kind of its own deal. So if we take those 4, then the easiest to convince the client of, because everybody's coming in wanting to pay off the mortgage, right? So like we don't really have to change their mind in order to present that to them. So that's pretty easy. So that's number 1 as far as easy goes. Paying down to refi is like number 2. That's a pretty close second. It's almost just as good, right? Number 3 is going to be covering the income gap if she can afford to make the mortgage payment on her own. And then the 4th is going to be critical period. So critical period is kind of the hardest because we have to convince the client that their spouse is going to sell the home anyway. We just need to make sure they have the financial resources to do that with grace. And we're having to get them off of, I need to pay off the whole mortgage in order for my spouse to be okay and get them to see that she's going to sell the house anyway. Does that make sense? Okay. Greg, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I mean, my question was, it was back a while ago, but it does have to do with the spouses where 2 or 3 times this week, I struggled with spouses not being on the phone and then getting down to price bands and into it. All of a sudden, the spouses are involved, right? Is there?
Wait, hold on. That doesn't make sense to me. You struggle with getting the spouse on the phone, but then you get down to the price bands and now the spouse is involved. What do you mean by that?
What I'm saying is they're like, hey, I need to talk to my wife. Potentially, I got to get some coverage for her. Like it just, or she's like, well, if something happens to him, I got to get covered for me. Like it's coming out a little bit wonky for me. And I think part of it, what I wanted to ask about, is there a way to put in the health information for the spouse in this?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So that was
Well,
like,
but yeah, all you do is like when you're in the health, just open up notes and then like enter all of the stuff for the one person.
oh, okay. So
Then
there's a
take
notes
notes.
over there. Got it.
Yeah, you just open notes and then take the notes on the second person.
Yeah, I'm learning my lesson to slow down and ask way more questions now. That's what it's taught me. I understand that I just have to ask way more questions on the spouses.
Well,
But I was
I
just
think
looking,
in general, like ask more questions in general, all of you. Ask more
yeah,
questions.
slow down, more questions.
Part of it is you guys knowing what questions to ask, and that will come with time. But selling is not telling, right? Selling is asking questions and leading people down a pathway. And
Yeah,
so I'm not going to tell the person the spouse is going to sell the house in 2 years. I'm going to ask them questions to try to get them to see that it's likely she's going to sell the house in 2 years. CJ.
I think I might have come across the same thing that Greg is saying. So if this happened with Joanne, actually, it was Michael Pollard was the contact. Joanne picks up and they're looking to get spouse protection. So technically I'm talking to the beneficiary
Right.
at that time.
Yes.
So I'm getting Michael's information and then putting her down as the beneficiary. And
Yeah. So what you would do is just flip it, right? So if you'll notice, like if it says, if a woman lists her husband as the beneficiary, I always start the call by saying, when you go to confirm the beneficiary, I'm like, okay, and I see you have Jim, that's your husband, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, now are we looking for something that if something happens to him, it's going to protect you? If something happens to you, it's going to protect him, or both? And most
yeah.
of the time they'll say both. I say, okay, great. Perfect. And I'm
So
just going to ask you, hold on. So I'm just going to ask some questions. So I've got, is this your date of birth? Okay. And what's his? I'm going to figure out, like, is he older than her? And the second that I know he's older than her, which he probably is, I'm going to say, okay, so most of the time we focus on coverage that's going to protect you, the wife, first, because that's the highest priority, given that 9 out of 10 times the husband passes before the wife. And he's a few years older. We men, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's poor decision making, we have shorter life expectancies on average. And so we oftentimes focus on making sure that the wife is protected. And then once we have a plan for that, any remaining available budget, then we'll use that to make sure that the husband is protected. But would you agree that like priority is making sure something happens to you? So, but I don't usually go there until we get into the finances, right? Because she may actually be making way more money than him. Who knows? And like she may actually be fine on her own and he's the one that's fucked. So we don't really know that until we get down into finances. But I'm still asking the question as soon as I see husband and wife, I'm saying, is this something that if something happens to him, it protects you? Something happens to you, it protects him, or both? They'll say both. I'm always going to put the man in as the center panel. Always. And then I'll put the woman in notes until we have the functionality to do both, which I would say soon, but given how fast we've been developing on this in recent weeks, I don't know.
Age doesn't matter. So that
It matters a little bit, but the men are almost always, the men are usually older, not always, but usually, and men are automatically have shorter life expectancy than women by like 2-3 years. So that's why I'm just, in most circumstances, the man has higher income, higher social security, and is in that financial situation, and the wife is the one that needs to be protected. It's not always the case, but 8 out of 10 times that's true. So I usually I just default to putting the man in the middle in terms of like the center panel and then putting the wife stuff on the side, but it doesn't really matter either. Like you can put the wife in the main panel and then put the husband in the side. You're going to use toolkits anyway. So as long as you capture it, then you've captured it. Just make sure you're keeping it consistent and you're not like mixing information. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but you want to ask that question early on. And again, guys, if it's a husband and wife, like do not present numbers without asking, especially if it's a man, do not present numbers without asking, is this something that you're just wanting to do for her? Or is this something you guys have been talking about for a while? And if he says, oh, we've been talking about it, dude, she has to be in the conversation. Or you're going to present numbers and then he's going to say, I need to talk to my wife. If you're talking to the wife, almost assume that the man's going to need to be there or needs to be involved in the conversation. Like it's highly unlikely that she'll do it. Some of them do though. Like some of them, okay, should we include Jim? No, he's fine. I'm just taking care of this myself. Like the women are actually more likely to do that than the man, but you still got to ask.
Why is that?
Why is what?
I mean, I know the answer, but
Oh, because the women are the ones that wear the pants.
and they are gonna reap the benefits of the policy.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But women, a lot of times men don't really care. They just want the wife to be happy.
Right.
Yeah, whatever. As long as she's happy, happy wife, happy life, I don't really care. So the woman is in the driver's seat most of the time.
You're gonna make a good husband, Dustin.
Thanks. But make sure you ask, because if you get down into it and you forget, then you're fucking yourself. Same thing with kids. Ask the question, are your kids involved in your financial decisions? Should we include them in this conversation? And I've had clients where I've asked that and she says, yeah, maybe. I'm like, okay, when do you think, is your daughter available now? Can we just three-way call her in? Or should we set a time to chat with her like tomorrow or Wednesday? Because I'm already knowing she's going to say, I got to talk to my kids anyway. And I would way rather have the kids on the phone when I present than deal with oh yeah, I talked to her. They said she didn't need it.
Right. I mean, that was our scenario yesterday with Kat and I.
Yeah.
So if you get through the FI with a wife or wife, but the husband's not around,
Schedule an
that's
appointment.
the appointment. Yeah.
And like it feels counterintuitive to do that. So it will feel in the moment like, well, I've got such good rapport. Like maybe I could just get this one.
I feel like once you have the or and the FI already taken, like they will answer the call again.
No,
No?
no. Not true. Not even close to true.
Really?
Absolutely not. You can't bank on them answering the phone again
I mean,
until you get
banking-
banking information.
Gotcha.
Once you get banking information, like, yeah, they're going to pick up the fucking phone. But until then, dude, I've had socials, I've had everything. They just don't answer. It's the weirdest thing. But you're in a better position because the second that you give them numbers, they don't need you. The only thing they need you for is to do the application. And I've said this, I'm going to repeat it. If you tell one spouse and they're going to go tell their other spouse, the power in you presenting is not that you can answer the questions, it's that you're going to build value and fear, right? You're going to surface fear loss while you're in the conversation. And that's going to build up an emotional state in the client. And that emotional state is what's going to make them like, yes, I need to do this, right? If you're not in control of that, she's going to go tell the husband, hey, honey, I was looking at this. Or actually, it's going to be he's going to go tell the wife, hey, honey, I'm looking at this. It's for you. She's like, we're not spending $250 on that. Where the fuck are we going to get $250? You know what I mean? So just know that you have to have them both on the phone just to build up the emotional state in both of them and build up the value in the policy to get a positive buying decision. Okay. So with both of you guys, like you already closing, and Chris getting ready to close, Greg's already closing. It's where we're at right now is we should be, let's say we get through the health FI and things are looking good. It's an IUL. Now you're going to go into the financial FI, and this is a really good opportunity, right? When they say like view this also as rapport building, view it as an opportunity to like make friends with them and build more rapport than you have already. Okay, this is an opportunity where, okay, and are you retired or are you still working? No, I'm retired. Okay, right on. And what did you used to do? And whatever they say, like ask them questions about it. Not because you really need to know, but because people love talking about what they used to do and people love talking about themselves. And just get them talking. And while they're talking, open up toolkits and start plugging in all their health stuff. That way you already have, hopefully by the time that you're getting done with FI, you actually already have toolkits filled out and you're already looking at different things for them. You're already having an idea of how much coverage they can get for any given budget. So then when you go down to close on the price band, if what they really need is a little bit above what gold is suggesting, change the fucking band. Like change it to fit what you want to present to them. They don't know. Like we made this up. Like there's no such thing as this. We made it up. So change it. Like we did that live with Jimmy Ellis.
Yes, we did.
It was like the price band said gold was 250 to 450, and I think I bumped it up to like 500 just so that I had room to pitch him on paying off the whole house for $480 or whatever it was. So don't let the price band paint you into a corner. Know what you're going into before you get there. Like if we do this right, before you even get to the end of the financial FI and get to price bands, you should already know what they're going to qualify for, how much it's going to cost. And then when you're gauging their discretionary income, then you know, can I change this price band or do I need to leave it as is? Does that make sense?
When you say changing the price band, you just mean throwing up a higher number like off the top of your head, right?
Not, I use it as a base, but yeah, pretty much. So if we said like, well, incomes, I'm not going to add in all the stuff, but let's just say income's 4,000. Okay. And that gives us discretionary of 1,800. And if I'm looking at, so gold is saying 234 to 396, but I need 450 to make this deal work. I'm just going to say, yeah, so platinum is 450 to 600, gold is 234 to 450, and silver is $75 to 234.
Got it. Okay.
Just that way, like I'm looking at toolkits, seeing that I need a little more room, and then I will present the band differently to give me that room, knowing that they're probably going to choose gold.
Got it.
So who can give me a pitch and close on the price band? You want to go?
Sure, I can.
Okay. everybody, I'm going to turn this around because Chris is going to pitch us on a price band. And we're going to listen to him and see how he does.
So have you ever heard of price bands?
No, what are those?
Okay, it kind of works. It's kind of like going to the jewelry store. We have platinum, gold, and silver. So the platinum is for the folks that just want as much coverage as possible, and they don't really care about price. They just want to make sure that their loved ones are taken care of. And that one's a great option for the people that have, a budget that can afford that. Gold is what most of my clients end up going with. That is in X price range to this price range.
Well, you
And-
have the price range right here. Lee.
I can't see it from over
Oh,
here.
okay, got it.
I can't see it from over here.
Okay.
Let's just say so platinum is 450 to 600, and gold is what most of my clients end up going with. That provides everything the family needs, and it's still budget friendly, and that's going to be 250 to 400. And then we have silver. Silver is also still a great option, but it's a little more budget friendly or budget focused, and that one's going to run you 150 to 200. So I suggest going with
Okay.
gold.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
That's pretty good. Everybody give Chris a round of applause. Golf clap for Chris. Hey, coming off the bench, that was pretty good. A couple things to watch for is when you guys are doing this, make sure that you're giving yourselves at least like $100. Like you don't want to say silver is 150 to 234 because it's like now you just pigeonholed yourself into like minimum 150. And really you want the minimum to be about $100, sometimes 75, depending on the client.
Right. I mean, depending on their discretionary income.
Yeah. So note to self, like don't ever say silver is zero because there is no $0 options, right? And you don't want to sell a $0 policy. I don't even tell them down to 50 because I don't want to do a $600 policy. So I'm like, silver is usually 100 to whatever the bottom of the gold band is. This could be better scripted in here. So I'm going to make a note to work on that. Price band scripting. What's up, CJ?
So what if the face amount, let's just say, for example, the face amount is 25,000, and then I go in the toolkits, get a price, and then that monthly payment is outside the gold band.
That's right. So really good question. And what you want to be doing is looking at toolkits before you get to the gold band. Okay. So before you get to price bands, while you're going through the financial, again, this is why I'm like, ask them questions, get them talking. And so like, you need to, like, I encourage you to put the information, the health information in both places in the script app, as well as you have to have it in toolkits for now, because that's going to give you the pricing. But I encourage you, like, even while you're doing this, like go fill out toolkits at the same time, like just get them talking. If they say, oh, I had cancer 3 years ago, or I had cancer 5 years ago. Oh my gosh. Hey, I have a friend that was just diagnosed. Is there any advice? Like she's freaking out. What advice would you give somebody that just received a diagnosis? And like, just get them talking. And then while they're talking, use that time to go put the stuff into toolkits. So then you can see what are we likely to get. Now, again, if you get a green box, like you're trying to go IUL and just know like their minimum coverage amount on an IUL is 25,000. Okay. So you can't go below 25,000 on an IUL.
Okay, so always put the base amount as 25,000 as your.
If you're
Going-
if you're trying to go an IUL,
IUL.
yeah, otherwise you'll get there won't be any options for you. That's the minimum you can do. Yeah. If they need to go below that, it's like a $17,000 FEX policy will be the same cost as a $25,000 IUL. So there's a massive gap there, which can help you if you're trying to get them to go with a little bit of a higher option. You can say, well, 15, there's the way these work is there's kind of this funny gap between 15 and 25. Like 15,000 is $200, $120, 25,000 is $135. So it's like we might as well get the extra 10,000 for $15. Wouldn't you agree? Okay. So, okay, there's a couple things that I just want you guys to commit to memory or write down. Because if we're closing, that means you have to close on the price band. We have to close on budget, primarily because we're trying to take the budget. I don't know if I can afford this objection off the table. If you do not fill out the expense part of this, you're going to get that objection. Like if you do not walk through their expenses with them, like if you try to take a shortcut, and which I have done, you try to take a shortcut and say like, okay, and what your expenses are probably what, about $1,500? Yeah, or something like that. Okay, cool. And then you go close on the price band. They'll agree with you, but then when you present, then they'll say, oh man, well, yeah, really got to go look back at my finances and make sure that this works. So it's extra, like it takes time, but it's part of the process. Just do the process. Chris.
Just a comment about that. I'm plugging in the information religiously and it's so accurate. Like every time it spits out the discretionary amount and I ask them like, oh, is it about $1,500 you have left over? They're always like, yeah, that sounds about spot on.
That is.
Like it really determines their discretionary very well.
Yeah, well, and like once you have that, they can't tell you they can't afford a $100 policy. It's like, hey, by the way, guys, write this down or make some notes on this. Budget, aside from the things that we put into the system, they'll never have the actual discretionary income that the system says, because budget on paper is different from budget in real life. That said, the way to, if you feel like you're going to get some pushback, like it's just a feeling, like if you feel like you're going to get some budget pushback, I would say, so listen, we have this 1,500 in discretionary. Now, you and I both know you don't actually have $1,500 left, because money gets spent on things. It gets spent on Amazon, it gets spent on shopping, it gets spent on just random stuff. That's how it goes. And so my experience with this is that, with that discretionary, you're going to end up with, priorities, right? Things that are really important to you versus things that may not be that important to you. And when we think about, like for example, like what are some of the other things that you spend, you're spending on monthly?
Your
And-
grandkids or something.
Okay, gifts for the grandkids. What else?
Gym membership.
Okay, gym membership. What else?
Mm.
Well,
Nights out with the wife.
At the bar.
drinks at the bar, and you're going to hear like, well, I go to Amazon, or I watch QVC, or I do fucking this and that, or I like to go out to dinner 4 or 5 times a week.
Right.
And so you can say, so all of those things you have entirely the right to do. And in my experience, what I found is that sometimes we have to make sacrifices for the things that are important. And so now we may go into these options and we may find that this fits really well within your budget. We may find that we kind of have to think about the priority of where this falls. So I don't know if, you making sure that your family is protected is more important than going out to dinner 3 nights a week, or if it's more important than taking advantage of Cyber Monday. I don't know that, only you know that. But what I'd encourage is, like, as we think about this, like, where in the order of importance does protecting your family fall? Would you say it's like bar none the most important? Is it somewhere in the middle, or is it not important at all? And like, I have used that in the past when somebody's had a bunch of discretionary income, and then they're like, I asked that question, okay, do you find you have about 50? Oh man, I don't have anywhere near that. Like, we spend our money on all kinds of other stuff. Then I'm already knowing like this guy's going to give me pushback on the price band. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, honestly, this whole thing is just going to come down to what's important to you. And we kind of have to think about it in terms of that, because if you were to list out like all the things you're spending money on outside of these fixed expenses, and then if I asked you to put them in order of priority, like what's the level of importance, where would protecting your family fall in comparison to some of the things that you're spending your discretionary on? And dude, then you got them.
Right.
You got here? So keep that in your back pocket. It's like, I wanted you to hear that. You're not going to have to use it that often, but
I think we should have that question on the script app. That would be phenomenal. Just as a reminder, like, hey, ask this. This is
It's a blunt question, but I mean, some people need to hear that. Like,
I mean, it gets them thinking, like, how important is my family really
Well,
to me?
so my example is I had a guy in New Mexico that they had like $3,000 of discretionary income. And we're talking about a policy. He's like, oh man, I don't know if we could afford that. And I was like, Paul, like, what do you mean? You have 3,000, like, what do you mean, Kenneth? I'm confused. He's like, well, man, I like to go out to eat. You know, I go out to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, we really don't cook at home. I'm like, okay, I can appreciate that. And so when you think about protecting your family, like, is there what else do you spend your money on aside from going out to eat? He's like, oh, I don't know. We'll go to the casino sometimes. And I'm like, okay, great. You're going to fucking gamble your fucking wife's safety away. Fantastic. And so I've had the conversation of like, yeah, hey, at the end of the day, only you know how important these things are. But if you had to like rank order all the things that you spend money on now, and you think about protecting your family, like does protecting your family fall at the bottom of that list, or is it like in the middle or somewhere near the top? What do you think? And you're like, oh yeah, no, I guess, yeah, no, you're right. I'm like, okay, yeah, stop going to Jack in the Box every morning, dude. Like, fucking A. But that's been helpful. So sometimes we got to call people, and sometimes people don't think about, okay, yeah, that's a pretty fucking obvious question. How important is it to protect my family comparatively to other things I'm spending my money on?
Can we leave Jack in the Box out of this, please?
Are you eating Jack in the Box right now?
No, I'm just messing.
Okay, so I'm gonna get this down because I'm gonna record, like we're already recording this, but then we're posting this training. So I just want to have this scripting for the price band. The way that I've been saying it is I'll say, okay, so has anyone ever talked to you about price bands? No, what are those? They usually don't say what are those, they'll just say no. And say, well, there are ways, as you can imagine, there's thousands of programs. And so really the price bands just help us narrow those programs down to ranges that are comfortable for you from a financial standpoint. And I don't know why they did it like this, but they're basically like jewelry. So you have the platinum band, the gold band, and the silver band. The platinum band really, I don't recommend it that often. Frankly, I think it's a little bit of overkill. This is really for the families that they don't care. They just want as much coverage as they can get. They don't care how much it costs. Just get me as much as I can. And but like I said, most of the time it's overkill. For you, the platinum band's like $450 to $600. Then we have the gold band, and this is what most of my clients choose. Primarily, number one, because we can usually do all the things that we need to do to protect the family from within that gold band, but mainly, like it's just more manageable. I mean, for you, the gold band's $250 to $450. And I mean, obviously, a $350 payment is just more manageable than a $600 payment, isn't it? They're like, yeah, yeah. So that's why most clients choose gold. And then the next level down is silver, and silver is still great, but a lot of times it means that we're having to give some concessions in terms of the coverage that we have for the family in favor of, a lower budget. So some families still choose that. Most families choose gold, but out of those three, which one do you think we should focus on, the platinum, silver, or gold? And dude, I've only had a couple people actually choose silver. But notice that when I'm giving that, I tell them most people choose gold at least 3 times. So I'm like drilling that into their head. Hopefully, it doesn't sound super repetitive, but I'm saying it specifically. So psychologically, they're thinking most people choose gold. I should choose gold. You know what I mean? So that will need to be built in, but that's how you close. And then which one should we focus on? You let them make the decision. Okay. Okay. Perfect. So gold it is. I've got that locked in. Now we're going to make sure that we're going to focus on programs that fit within the gold band. We're going to do everything we can. But before we start looking at that pricing, let's talk through the jobs that we want this policy to have. And then we're going into case design. I'm mentioning that because closing on this price band is like one of the most important pieces of this whole pitch. Like everything up to this is really you getting information so you can figure out how to position the solution that you're going to sell. But closing on the banding is like that's half of the sale right there because you just got commitment that they can spend this amount of money, right? And so now our job is to go find their solution within that. It's 8:11. Chris is looking at his watch. So, but we've been on for an hour. So do you guys want to keep going? You guys want to call it a night? Where are you guys at?
Paul's awesome. I'm gonna go either way. Just I'm exhausted, and Miley's been gone for 14 days, so I appreciate you, Dustin.
Yeah, no problem, Greg. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you.
Hey, real quick though, I heard something earlier, and it was something I had to change in my life. Replace the word "but" with "and," because people forget everything you say before "but." So, like when you say, "Oh, the silver band," um, but it's still good, they won't hear that. So you have to say the silver band and it's still good. Just a little psychological thing.
Okay. Did I say the silver band, but it's still good?
No, I just heard a couple people in examples say "but" as a word. And if you replace the word "but" in your language with the word "and," it's way more powerful.
Huh.
True.
Thanks for sharing that. Okay.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Greg.
All right. Yep. Good night, guys, girls, everybody.
Sir.
Okay. This just bears repeating. Other closing tips, like go into the case design, know that, you don't have to, it's going to give you like pre-populated numbers until I fix it. So it doesn't have those, it just has zeros there. I'll do that tonight so that that's not as confusing. But depending on what you're doing, it's like you're paying off, you're paying down, you're paying for. And if you're paying for and it's the spouse, go into this and know, CJ, if you want to write these notes down, this is important. If it's a spouse, okay, final expenses, home maintenance and prep, travel and moving, and then emergency fund. Okay, those are the categories that matter. We want to do this without making the client feel like we're like, you're at the rental car stand and the guy's asking you if you want to do you want the toll passway? Do you want the gas filled up for you? And like, how you go rent a car and they try to upsell you and all this additional shit. It's like, no, just give me the car. We don't want it to sound like that. So we want to say, hey, okay, so every policy should have at least one job, right? And it's up to you what you want this policy to do. So I'm going to walk you through what some of the things that the spouse will encounter afterwards. And then you tell me if we need to figure out how to handle that. So typically, obviously we want to have the mortgage paid for. Do you have something that's going to cover your final expenses? And if they already told us that they already have a policy, great. We already know that. If they don't, though, no, I don't have that. Okay, well, we can have it cover that. Do you want to be buried, cremated, blah, blah, blah. But we're also going to say the other things that some people choose to do is like they want the policy to also provide money to maintain the home and money to prepare it for sale. There's always things that need to be done around the home, and that can be, not a crazy amount of money, but it can cost some money. They'll also choose to include some money for like travel and moving expenses, renting the U-Haul, doing those things. They'll include, money for an emergency fund or for a buffer in case we forgot something. And so we can walk through each of those, but what we're doing right now is kind of designing the plan that we want this policy to provide. So first things first, let's focus on the period of mortgage time that we want. And ideally, again, you've already looked at toolkits, so you have an idea of what they can afford, and then you can manage it to that, right? But if it's a spouse, this is the difference between the three categories. A spouse, ideally, you're getting minimum 18 months up to 30 months. So think about it, 18, 24, 30 if it's a spouse. Some people can't afford that because they're super sick and they don't have the budget, but leading psychologists really do say a spouse shouldn't have to even think about a major life decision for at least a year after loss. And so if we want a year for grieving, then we got 2 months to prep the home for sale. The national average for homes on the market today is 74 to 90 days. So that's 3 months. And then it takes another 30 days to actually close. So the sale and closing process is 4 months, the home preparation is 2 months, and the grieving time is 12 months. Now that's what psychologists recommend as the minimum. So do you want to do what psychologists recommend? Do you want to give her more than that, up to like 2 years of grieving time? where do you, what kind of time do you want to give to your spouse? If you frame it that way, since I started framing that way, I haven't had any spouse, any husband say, give less than that. Prior to framing it that way, well, I don't know, like 6 months. 6 months, she should be fine. And they don't really know. They're just pulling that out their ass. But once you frame it, if you frame it this way, leading psychologists say this, then they have a reason to do it. They have a reason to give her more time. Does that make sense? Okay. So spouses are, it's actually, I think it should be auto-populated
That's
for
what I was
you.
just about to ask. The timeline, like it's already like at the suggested month.
And so what it does is it's giving you the middle. Okay, so the budget is going to be minimum, balance is going to be middle, and then family is kind of like the most. And if you change it to like spouse protection, notice that now we're like 15. So did it change? Yeah, there we go. Okay. It starts at 18, it goes to 24. This has the minimum actually at 15 because some people they just can't afford it. That's just ultimately what it comes down to. If you got a $3,000 mortgage, like 15 months is $45,000, on a final expense policy for a 73-year-old guy that had 3 heart attacks, like that's an expensive policy. So don't be afraid to change it, but this is kind of how to think about it, because it's like if you're trying to juice the policy, like juice it with the home maintenance and prep and the travel expenses and the emergency fund and all those things, don't go all the way to like 5 years of payments. No one needs 5 years worth of payments. And like if somebody like me gets on the phone and they say, well, this is going to cover it for 5 years, like I'm going to undermine the shit out of that and probably flip that policy. Like, why 5 years? That's a long time. Is she living there? Like, who needs 5 years to do anything? Like, you can go get a college degree in 5 years. What do we need 5 years of payments for? You know what I mean? So don't go longer than 2.5. And 2.5 is still quite a long time. But if it's for the kids, it should be 9 to 15. If it's for the spouse, it should be 18 to 20 or 18 to 30. And the only reason to go actually like up to 5 years or something like that would be if there's a care continuity issue and they're just trying to give them as much time as they can. But even then, it should be, listen, let's cover the home payments for 2.5 years and let's give them some money to like go put down on another home and sell this one, or given some money to hire somebody to help them with this. And you can even, let's go find who that person is. And then let's set up a trust where you can designate that person is going to be responsible for the well-being of your son that's disabled. So like, let's structure that, but they don't need 5 years of house payments. What they need is a couple of years of house payments and some additional money to handle any kind of emergencies and things that come up so they don't find themselves in a tough spot. Does that make sense?
100%.
Okay. All right. It's 8:20. Let's wrap it there. Do you guys have any other question or any questions of anything that's come up?
That's pretty helpful.
Okay. Has this been useful?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Every meeting is.
Yeah. It just every day it makes more sense.
100%.
Like 2 weeks ago, this shit was not making sense. It's slowly but surely.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think especially today, because that was the point of this training, was to build the framework of how to think about structuring the policy and stuff. So I think this was, for me, it's really helpful. And
Good.
yeah.
Okay.
I think every training's been very helpful.
Thank you. Carrie, Nina, Kyle, any questions you guys got?
No, not until I get more in the thick of it.
Okay.
I have other questions, but I'll put them in the WhatsApp chat because it would just take too long for the rest of this meeting, and then you can choose whatever you want to address next time.
Yeah. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to say. So Pinnacle, these guys at Pinnacle Nation figured out a way to do like a chapter. Like, I don't really know how they did that.
What do you
You
mean a
see that?
chapter?
Meaning, like, if you click into Pinnacle Nation, there's like 4 different groups. You need to do some laundry. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to change it. Add group to a community. Is it this? New community. Huh. Well, what I want to do is I want to have a dedicated space that as we're going through the week and coming across things, we can just drop those things into that space. And so then we're not trying to remember it on a given day. We just post it somewhere, and then that gives me some kind of like outline for things that you guys have found or you guys have run into throughout the week. That's going to make us it'll be a little more functional than how we're doing it now. But Carrie, that said, if you want to just throw those things into the WhatsApp, into our chat, then I'll bookmark those for our next training sesh.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Nina, how about you?
No, until I get started calling and I'm just observing and absorbing
Okay.
as much as I can.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, if anything comes up, feel free to reach out. Yeah, shoot, tomorrow's going to be a crazy day, so I'm probably not going to be super responsive to things until tomorrow evening, but I am going to be here all day Saturday. So I'll probably even come in on Sunday. So if there's anything you guys need, just let me know.
I'll text you on Saturday.
Okay. All
Are
right.
we still meeting on Tuesday evening for training?
Yeah, I'm going to. I think so. It's like I wanted to do it Tuesday night, but frankly, it was like time to do the training. I was exhausted and I needed to go home and sleep. So, but yeah, the goal is like Tuesdays, Thursdays. We're doing trainings. Unless you guys want to do like Thursdays, Saturdays or something, but I think Tuesday, Thursday works.
And still the Wednesday, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Well, these are going to shift. So right now we're doing this because I'm trying to get you guys through closers training, but we've trained on pretty much everything. So we've got a new class of people that are coming in, and then this whole thing's going to reset. We're going to start back from square one with those folks. You guys are always welcome to join these and just listen in and whatever. But the Wednesdays are really intended to be for us to just address whatever's come up in the last week as a team. And then these are intended to be more like onboarding trainings.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Chill. Okay.
I'll stick with all these until I start calling. In closing, I mean, I'm hoping to start calling next week. So
let's go. Okay. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Have a good night.
You guys.
Toodles.
Toodles.